Hello to you, my fellow Dark Ones, how are you guys doing today? How's life? And yes, we are going to start today's episode by making NitroBenzene. I know I did mention that we're never ever going to make NitroBenzene, I still remember that, but this is going to be a substitute for our solar panels. And besides, I do have a slight problem with ammonia. So what I have done is that I have assembled two chemical plants which are sharing walls, and I thought maybe I should bring you in for setting up everything. So we are making benzene at insane rates, and we just need to have a pipe connection to our chemical plants, which hopefully should flow in one way. Lovely. For saving on channels, we're going to do things a bit differently. So this is a fluid storage bus, we take it. And that's an ender tank for benzene. We take U2. So over at our chemical plant, we are going to use that fluid storage bus like so. Just in case, we are going to lock it to benzene and on extract only. And then we check if we have a bucket of milk, which we have, and we shall take this quantum tank. Wait, I don't feel bad. I thought I'm going to get tons of debuffs. But now if we check, yes, we have 128,000 buckets of benzene. And a bit more. There should be a super tank down there with benzene, I have to find it and remove it. But basically the reason that I connected everything to our applied energy sink system is because of this input hatch. This is the quadruple input hatch that we are also using for our blast furnaces, and the good thing about these guys is that you can use one export bus with 4 fluids. So if I hook up the export buses to our applied energy sinks, we should get all the fluids at the same time. Except the one. That is actually distilled water, but fear not, I have 2 distillation towers over here. They're very short, I know. You can make distilled water using oxygen and hydrogen, but you're using gases. Water, on the other hand, if you distill it inside the distillation tower, is free. So something like this should be acceptable, and yeah, we're getting water. For powering everything, we're going to use the magic energy converters, because, well, I was using them for my applied energy sink system, then I hooked it up to the solar panels, so they're free. I'm kind of useless. These are high voltage, we have 10 of them, but let's install 6 of them at this very moment. And normally you shouldn't do this because conduits are cheaper than superconductors, but I have tons of high voltage superconductors from our ore processing. I switched them with EV, so we have tons of high voltage. The reason that I'm mentioning this is that we have to make a connection to our distillation towers, so you can come, I don't know, here. Very cool, we have power. Every 0.8 seconds we're making 2 buckets of distilled water. Distilled water is actually used in other recipes as well, so what we're going to do is that we're going to have a storage bus, we lock it, thank you, and we connect it to our applied energy sink system as well. And any second we should also get distilled water inside the chemical plants. So let's turn it on. No? Oh yeah, it doesn't have power. I did not hook up these guys. These guys are also going to be high voltage. I think it's fast enough. Yeah, NitroBenzene. Every 15 seconds. I was hoping more. I'm using good coils. It's okay, maybe the pipe casing and the coils only work with recipes which require catalyst. I'm not really sure, I'm not an expert. However, now that we're making NitroBenzene, there is a bit of a problem. We're using a ton of sulfuric acid as well as nitric acid. Sulfuric acid is not the problem, because we can make it really fast. However, we have already lost 10% of our entire nitric acid supply. Earlier, I did mention I have a problem with ammonia, and that is, I have too much of that, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have 2 more chemical reactors. It's not something super fancy, it's just going to be high voltage. And since we have 6 generators, this should go fine. I think. Later on, I might have to upgrade the chemical plants to EV, but these guys are going to be high voltage anyways. So, as usual, a quad input hatch. I got an egg. Thank you. And we are going to export ammonia and oxygen into the chemical reactors with circuit number 24. It doesn't have an input bus, this is why I'm using a circuit. Currently the recipe that I'm using for nitric acid is this one, which takes 16 seconds in high voltage. With ammonia it's 16 seconds but in low voltage. It's a decent supplement, I suppose. It's not going to recover all of our nitric acid. But then again, I'm also not producing that much ammonia. Actually, that's decently fast, it's like 2 buckets every second. That is exactly 2 buckets every second, right? Yeah. I keep forgetting that chemical reactors overclock the recipe, so instead of being like 4 times faster, it's 16 times faster. That's great. 1 would have been enough, right? It's okay, I made 2, we used 2. So now, in order to use benzene across our base, I had this ender tank over here. Let's remove it. I think from now on, we are just going to use the NitroBenzene, why not? Whenever the tank gets empty, this should pump in. Hope it's gonna be enough. is the thing. Actually, maybe that's a bad idea, cause I'm wasting resources, right? Only 1 tower is working. Yeah, maybe we don't do that. The reason that I'm mentioning this is that this fuel that we're producing over here in large quantities is used only for mundane stuff, like the platinum line, and also all of these machines that you see over here around our base, as well as these ones. And one of the things that you might notice is that they're off, like 90% of the time. So I don't really think we should waste our amazing fuel on garbage stuff. Anyways, let's move on. Tier 4 rocket. So one of the things that I have noticed is that miners are garbage. Yes, we are getting ores, but that is from the only miner which I have in the overworld. The one that I have on Europa is not working, and I have no idea why. Miners are supposed to be chunk loaded. I have a chunk loader next to it, but it's not working. Maybe there's a slight damage or something, but the gist of it is I'm not getting more samarium. I got like 140 concentrate, but I'm not getting any more. If our miner was working, we would have gotten a decent amount of it from this ore on Europa, and now that the miner is not working, I have to get it manually, and Europa is not very friendly for mining. I need it from Mithril, and where do you find Mithril? On IO. It's a tier 4 rocket. Wait, is Mithril rare? Weight 40 compared to 160 for magnetite. I hate magnetite. Iridium. I like that one. It doesn't give you iridium, but it gives you the iridium rare earth or something, which goes in the platinum line. That means more osmium. So yeah, long story short, tier 4 rocket. And that means even though I'm not ready for this, I need a ton of TNT. Actually, how would you make TNT? I don't have any use for toluene. Screw the powder barrels. I honestly don't think this part has to be like super fancy automated. It's probably a temporary setup, but I have made myself an EV solidifier and one EV chemical reactor. And we're actually producing nitration mixture over here. So I suppose we can put it inside a tank that should go inside the chemical reactor. And how do you make industrial TNT? Circuit number 1. Cool. Now we just need toluene, which I think we have like 16,000 buckets. Oh, and I need a mold. I had that mold. I don't know where it is. Oh, it's here. Nice. Yes, that should be industrial TNT. Oh, diluted sulfuric acid. Oops. I don't want byproducts. What if we go with sulfuric acid? That's cheaper. Yeah, let's void the nitration mixture because I think the tank is full now. We take sulfuric acid, it's fast to replenish. I had a decent supply of gunpowder as well as planks, so I used powder barrel, but I got some of the stuff. We will use the TNT for the most important stuff. Also, we shouldn't really go that far, because I don't have the schematic, so the quests are not going to count, but that should be our lander. And hopefully that should be the other lander. Come on, where are you? Thank you. As for the heavy duty plates, I have put them on auto crafting, but there are a few things that we need. One of them is a compressed ice plate. For that we need IC2 coolant. That was 48 cells. That's 64. Perfect. You make it inside an IV assembler. Okay. I guess anyone will do. Yeah, this is going to be more than enough. We just need to make 13 of these heavy duty plates tier 4. Most parts of the rocket are ready, and well, in order to make the heavy duty plates, we needed to scan something. Yeah, because the rest of this has to be done inside the assembly line, and well, I needed the data stick. I'm going to do this one manually, so it's heavy duty plate tier 3. Then it's the compressed ice. How do we divide this? Okay, it's fine. And then there's this bolt. Does it work? Probably not, because the fluid has to be here, I suppose. Yeah, now it's working. We're making heavy duty alloy tier 4. However, as I have already mentioned, we don't have the schematic. That's actually mine. We are going to find the schematic on series. What does series have? I forgot. That's actually not that bad. Platinum. I want platinum. Yeah, we go mining there. A bit. I also need to bring back my miner. It's a good thing that I always arrive during the day. Well, at least most of the time. Let's find the dungeon first, then I'll do some mining, go get back my miner, and we go back to the overworld, make the rocket. And yeah, the coordinates for the dungeons is always the same on every single planet. The problem is that I never write it down. Oh, I think I saw something. Yeah, that's the dungeon. Exactly. Where's my sword? I need 16 bricks. Why 16? Also, I don't like this place. Yeah, it's poisonous. I thought so. It's okay, we run. They break easily. Ooh, that was big. And that's not a trap chest. But it's garbage. Hello? Okay, that was new and I'm scared. I did repair my crossbow. Okay, it's not that hard. Yeah, you just have to move slightly faster. He's dead. There's water on Ceres. Interesting. In any case, we have the key. Let us get our schematic. Thank you. The correct one? Yeah, rocket tier 4. Also you. I have hundreds of them. We do have the schematic, however, I also want to mine a bit. And I'm looking for this one, palladium. Oh, there's 2 of them. We're gonna be filthy rich. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back and well, the base was chunk loaded, so we have our heavy duty alloy. I didn't do that much mining because I realized everything that I actually need is also available on Venus, on Mercury and on Io. So I thought it's a waste of time mining on Ceres when we can get everything else on Venus, for example. That is our heavy duty plate. Thank you. I'll get the rest. Well, auto crafting helps a bit. That is our final piece. Thank you. So can we shift click it in? No. I have to remember. That's gonna be horrifying. Okay, it doesn't go in the wrong spot, so we can shift click it in. That's the tier 4 rocket. And this one is massive. And it actually looks quite nice. I like this one. But one of the things that I have noticed is that of all of the rocket computers that I have made, only this one was the painful one. You know, because of the field generator EV. The rest of them are like cheap and easy. Yeah, this one requires computer case tier 2, but you know, it's nothing. Even the next ones are not that bad. I don't know why they did that to tier 2. Also, I put 12 buckets of hydrogen inside. It only took 8.9. I don't know how much you consume per trip, is the point. But yeah, I can't really wait. Let's go to Io. I can do some serious mining over there. This looks very fancy. I do have spacesuit capability, right? Yeah. Let's go. I didn't make a backup. So this one is taller. Does it mean that we're going to reach the outer atmosphere faster? Not really. We're climbing almost at the same rate. You know, the entire reason that I'm redoing this mod pack is that they added a mod, or maybe it was always there, called Amun-Ra. I do actually think it's very fitting for this mod pack, because you have to make this Stargate. Launch. I'm naked. As usual, we are arriving in date. Oh, it's nighttime. I swear it was written day, but there's no one here. Well, that's interesting. Let's look for ores. There are people. There are weird people. Whoa, that scared me. There was lightning. I think I'm going to fly until it's daytime. Or I don't know, find a place to dig. Or try to find the dungeon. Wait, I have hover mode. Yeah. I can just stay up here. So, as usual, we have tons of magnetite. That's quartz, Certus quartz. That's actually quite nice. We have infused gold. And we have mithril. Mithril is not rare. Let's hope there are no lava pools underneath. So one thing that we can do is that we can put our monster repellator over here and run away. And yeah, it's free of mobs. Almost. Hello. I don't see anyone else. Let's dig. Yeah, this seems to be mithril. Because sometimes my prospector is wrong. And I have good news, there's no lava. Yes, mithril. So now that I actually have a hole, we can bring you. So you guys know the drill. I'll do mining. My stupid doppelganger appeared and well, he's taking damage, so I'm taking damage. I just wanted him to despawn. Yeah, he's gone. Lovely. So this is actually something quite interesting. This is called an infused gold vein. Well, it does give you a ton of gold, which we don't really need. It gives you platinum, but it also gives you infused gold. I just realized you can use it in order to make thaumium, and you can even use it in order to get Silas Mundus. Well, I do have a mob farm for balance shards. I can craft balance shards relatively easily. It's now automatic, almost. But it's good to know that we have other options. Also, I'm not finishing the vein, I just wanted the infused gold. I don't care about the gold. Alright guys, I'm back from Io. I even paid a very small visit to Venus. Actually like a 2-hour visit to Venus because it's an amazing planet for mining. I have been back for a while and look how much Naquadah we have. That is an amazing number, but life is not just about mining, we also have to do some work. And also maybe cook a bit more Naquadah. This is not very efficient, but there's tons of Naquadah on Venus, I'm not worried. So even if we waste a few thousand, you know, like 4,000, it doesn't really matter. So let us try to plan. You have maintenance problems. Yeah, there is a drone thing, I think I have to make it soon. I'm not sure if it's unlocked or not. Anyways, let us do the planning. In order to unlock the ZPMH, the only thing that we need to do is to get europium. How do we get europium? Well, we have to make a fusion reactor. How do we make a fusion reactor? that's not a big deal, but we need Naquadah alloy. So we have to make the Naquadah line, however, we're having shortage of power. As I think it's fairly obvious at this very moment, our main source of power is going to be through solar panels. Currently, we have one stack of EV solar panels, which is great for IVH, but we need to upgrade them to IV so that it will be great for the LUVH. So it's true that I have to finish the Naquadah line, but first we have to fix the power, and for that I need a molecular transformer. Well, I don't need it, it makes my job easier. So everything that I have already mentioned brings us up to one thing. Well, oh yeah, it's warp, it tells you you're hungry, then it drops the animals. I was underground, so they fell around here. But yeah, as I was saying, everything that I have already mentioned brings us up to one very important point. We need to automate the alloy blast furnace. You know, this guy over here. From now on, literally every single machine that I have to make requires a weird alloy, and it's not automated. I have to do everything manually. Because I only have one alloy blast smelter, it has one input bus, you have to change the circuits, you sometimes have to insert the fluid, so this can't be automated. I don't really know how many of them we are going to need, but I'm going to make 8 of them. Well, 7 more, we have 1. And then we're going to transfer them to the new expansion to our base, which is downstairs. I just dug it out. It took ages, I hate gravel, and I had to dig through granite. So we can have the alloy blast smelters down here, however, I need an alternative source of power. Think of it more like a substitute, and this is why we automated NitroBenzene earlier in the episode. Cause now we have to start working on large gas turbines. We're not going to go that crazy, this is just for this floor, so we need a capacitor bank, we need some turbines. Actually, before I start making the things that I want to, we're going to open some loot bags. I have already made the enchanted books, and yes, I have wasted all of my experience. But don't you worry, I have actually so much more. So, we are going to waste 4 electric motors, LUV, in order to enchant the loot bags. The quest book also gives you like 1, so why not? Also, we are going to open 16 IV loot bags. Oh, and by the way, I do have a real shortage of emerald gems, and well, I do get the blocks from the mob farm. So I was looking at different recipes, how to unblock it, and did you know? It's just a crafting recipe. It took me like 10 minutes. But anyways, we have a few space invaders. I'm not gonna enchant them, but okay, that's fine. Extra oxygen is always nice. We have an EV one. A nichrome, okay. We smelt it. We also have a high voltage one. Oxygen tank, okay. Actually, I don't need this one just takes up space. We also got some enchanted IV loot bags from the quest book, so those are the one. That's actually quite useful. Cables, I'm just gonna smelt. But let's open the LUV ones. I'm not happy. Still not happy. Should I be happy? I don't get it, but fine. Oh, the Ender! Monster Repellator Mark V. Wow. I made an IV one. Now we have the LUV one. So I guess it's time for the IV ones. It's not gonna be super fancy. We don't need Naquadah. I don't need machine inventory. The rest we're going to keep. But let us get to work. Okay, so it has been a while later, and yes, you might notice that we have an extra Lapatronic supercapacitor. This is our 3rd one actually, and 2 large gas turbines. They are working with NitroBenzene, and currently they're actually working with like 20 liters per second. I'm wrong, with 40 liters per second. Therefore, in total, they're giving us like 3.5 amps of EV, not more. However, these gas turbines have a bit of a problem. If the capacitor gets full, they're not going to be turned off automatically. And that's a problem, because then we're wasting fuel. So first off, let us answer a few important questions. One of them is that the turbine that I'm using is actually a large turbine, and the material is high-speed steel E. So it's basically this guy over here with a long tungsten steel rod. The other important thing is that, yeah, I can actually bump up the power by a lot. You see? 9,000. But that's enough. So these guys can generate around, I don't know, 5 or 6 amps of IV, but we don't really need them to run that fast. So let's do the redstone. There is something called an energy detector cover. I have not actually made them, I got them as a quest reward. But you put it on the side of the block, and we shall set them to internal EU. Redstone will be on normal, and we want the turbines to stop working whenever the buffer is 80% full. Also, they say just to save on lag, we put you to, I don't know, every 10 seconds. That's the intervals that it's going to check. On the other side, we're actually going to put it on 20%. Also, we want the turbines to start working whenever we're below 20%. I typed in 20%, that's the number. I have also made myself some red alloy wires from Project Red. We're also going to have these insulated wires so that we can actually color code each of the signals because we need two independent signals. And then we're going to use these bundled cables. You know, instead of carrying two lines of wires, we just carry the one. So we transfer the bundled cable near the turbines and now we need to unbundle it. You know, we use the same two colors and then we're going to have an RS latch. So in, out. We want the out. Also, I just remembered that the second energy detector for the minimum amount of power within the capacitor should be inverted. So you see, one of the cables is on because we don't have 20% power, we just have 10%. So the two signals from our controller come to a latch, they go to the input like so. You can rotate it using a screwdriver, but the output goes into a repeater just in case. And then we're going to bring the signal up and, you know, activate this block over here. So in order to turn off the actual turbine, we are going to have these covers. It's called machine controller cover and we put it with disabled with redstone. So if we activate the maximum capacity, yeah, they're off. And if we turn it off, the turbines are on. Cool. In this way, we are being efficient and we're not wasting fuel when the buffer is full. However, we're going to waste some energy. I'm a very inefficient person, there should be some inefficiency. So elevators are cheap, convenient, and kind of garbage. I don't really like them. Instead, we shall use teleportation. These are from Galacticraft and they're not that expensive. The only expensive thing is the field generator. That's it. I want to have 3 of them. I need that generator. I think in order to get the dragon egg, I needed a wooden sword. Come on. It just teleported. Okay, maybe it wasn't a wooden sword. I don't really remember. Do you sneak and right click? Sneak and left click? Yes. The teleporter is going to constantly consume 350 EU per tick. So we need this generator. I have some EV superconductors. That means this guy should have power, right? Right. We put the address to 1. Target address will be 2. It doesn't exist, I know. But in the basement we can have a second teleporter and now I need to do some wiring. The teleporters don't really connect to a superconductor, so I'm using an Ender IO capacitor. That seems to work. But the one that I have installed is now teleporter number 2 and if we walk in, after a few seconds we will be teleported. It's actually quite nice. Voila. We're here. Another thing is that I have semi-assembled the alloy blast furnaces down here. One of them is upstairs, I have to bring it down. We were missing a few blocks, so there you go. And 2 of these guys are going to receive the LUV energy hatch, the rest of them are just going to be IV. These machines can only accept 1 energy hatch, this is why I have an LUV energy hatch. And this is why I couldn't progress further. Anyways, let me try to hook them up to our applied energy 6 system, I'll be right back. Actually, before I do that, I have been smelting down Naquada nuggets for a while and we have a decent supply of Naquada ingots. We need 6 stacks of them in order to upgrade our coils for the blast furnaces. It's actually not that difficult, we already have everything. The reason that I'm mentioning this is that I need 48 coils and this is a very long and tedious process. Each one takes like 40 seconds. It's also a very fitting automation for LUVH, we're gonna use a hopper. Yay! Our first one. Alright guys, it has been a while later, I have been busy, but our coils are ready. Oh, that's a quest. Thank you. So let's switch them on the blast furnaces, that should increase our heat capacity. Later on for making the fusion reactor, what we need is something called Naquada alloy. And if you look at the recipe, the coil should be Naquada. Then there's also a Naquada alloy coil, but we will get to that later on. And yes, I noticed the voltage tier. This is why we have 6 spare LUV energy hatches. But let us get back to our main job, which is the alloy blast furnaces. I have hooked them up to our applied energy 6 system. I used fancy cabling. And one of the first recipes that I put in is actually one of the recipes that I have already used and we don't need it anymore. But let's check if it works. Watertight steel. Oh, it's ready. Okay. Nice, it does work. With circuit number 6, there is something called Gasesium. It's not a horrifying recipe, it's actually EV, nothing is super complicated, it's just that you also require hydrogen gas. I have already set up a system using Ender IO conduits, and if that works, well, we can call it a day. Yeah, it works. Simpler than I expected. It's making us Gasesium. So the way that I have done that is that I have a dual interface which is facing an input bus, right? The input bus does not accept a fluid, so I do have an input hatch over here and an ender-IO conduit. I'm extracting the hydrogen or whatever fluid and I'm putting it inside the input hatch, and that's it. Then it works. Now we move on to the next problem. The alloys that we make have to be solidified. Well, I do have an advanced fluid solidifier, but this is EV. We need one which is LUV, and it's better just to go with the multi-block. That watertight steel was actually for the same reason. I have already made the casing. Then we also need radiator blocks, which we can craft. So this one is big. I think this is the largest multi-block we have constructed so far. Don't you worry, there are going to be way bigger ones. So I wanted to save on the LUV energy hatches. This is why this guy has two IV energy hatches. And since the glass that you use determines your energy hatch, we're going with tungsten steel reinforced borosilicate glass block. The other trick to this guy, did you require a muffler hatch, by the way? No, the structure is complete, we should be fine. Max parallel 12. Nice. The only trick with this guy is that you can't use normal input hatches, you have to use solidifier hatch. It's kind of expensive, but this guy accepts molds. And for the moment we're going to go with 3 of them. One of them is nuggets, one of them is ingots, and one of them is the long rod. Also, I don't really remember if it was last episode or this one where I mentioned that you don't need an LUV bending machine, but apparently you do. Or you can use the LUV solidifier, but here's the thing, there is something called Xeron 100. Again, it's not something super fancy, it's just an alloy, but it is an LUV recipe inside the alloy blast furnace as well as the solidifier. This is why we had to make these changes. However, one thing that I didn't know is that if you want to convert it into a plate, that's also an LUV recipe. Solidifier hatches are incredibly expensive, so I think here's what we're going to do. We're just going to upgrade the bending machines. It's just an extra IV energy hatch, not a big deal. Anyways, over here we're going to have a few dual interfaces. We hook it up to our applied energy stick system like so, and we're going to have an import bus with a few acceleration cards because I think this guy is going to be super fast. That's it. And just to be able to test everything, let us get our Xeron 100 and then a recipe for getting the ingot itself. So that's the ingot and that's the fluid. Let's order some. It started working. Let's go downstairs. Okay, we're making the fluid. Wow, 360 seconds in LUV. My goodness. I don't really know what to say. Well, the important part is that it's working, so who cares? And just in case you're wondering, the reason that I need Xeron 100 is that I want to make something called a molecular transformer. I need that because it's way easier to make sonarium with it, as well as graphene. It's an IV recipe, takes half a minute. Not sure if it's worth it, but why not? I do waste a lot of silicon for making graphene. So if next episode everything would be ready, we are going to make the molecular transformer and we are going to upgrade our solar panels. However, there is another problem. It's a good problem. In order to upgrade 1 stack of EV solar panels into IV, I need 4 stacks of ZPM circuits. So that's 256 of them, and look how much of everything we're missing. 17,000 random access memory chip, 10,000 energetic alloy. Actually, the rest is fine. These are also semi-fine because I don't have a pattern to cut the wafers. Don't ask me why, I just always did that manually. Yeah, we have 600 of it. Okay, let's cut some. Why not? Oh, it's gonna give me 88 every time. Nice. Anyways, our Xeron is ready, and yeah, I think it's better to just modify the solidifier. Where's my telepad? I have to get used to it. I have muscle memory problems. Yes. But anyways, here's the plan. Next episode, we're going to make the molecular transformer. We're going to try and upgrade our solar panels. If everything goes well, the episode after that, we can finish the Naquada line, get the fusion reactor, and unlock the ZPM age. So we should be there in 2-3 episodes. I hope. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's also a good time to wrap up the episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Till the next one. Bye bye.